Welcome to your Magnetic Purpose podcast, where human design meets astrology and tarot. I'm your host, Ashley Hood. Get ready to explore, evolve, and embrace your fullest potential. Welcome to a journey of self-discovery like no other. Hey everybody, and welcome back to Your Magnetic Purpose, the podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Hood. And today I wanted to take a little bit of a dive into the centers. This is going to be one of the first things that you're going to notice when you get your body graph chart, because it's a bunch of different shapes just kind of floating around on a piece of paper. So on the body graph chart, when you're looking at the centers, these are actually represented by traditionally what would be referred to as the chakras. But traditionally there's 7 chakras, and in human design there's 9. If you see that one of them is colored in, that means that you have defined energy in that center. This is consistent energy within you. You can call upon it at any time, and is something that you know about yourself and that others can sense in you as well. If you have an undefined center or a not colored in center, this means that this is energy where you're open and you're also susceptible to outside influences or picking up the vibes of somebody else in this area. An undefined center is also a really good place if you want to start to do any shadow work to see where maybe you are taking in the energy of others that doesn't belong to you. Now, if you're looking at the body graph chart, the first triangle that you're going to see at the very top, that is the head center. That center is all about inspiration. And if it is defined, these are people who are meant to hold on and come up with really great ideas, but they don't hold on to them for too long. They're meant to share them and pass them on as quickly as they come to them. This is kind of where you get your divine downloads from. If you have this undefined, this means that you are someone who can understand when someone is inspirational and worth listening to. Below that triangle is going to be the head center. The head center is all about the way we think, the way that we form ideas, and people with the head center defined are what you're going to be called strong-headed. You have a very consistent way of thinking, formulating thoughts, and understanding how the world should be through a mental capacity. If you have it undefined, you're very open-minded and you're really receptive to other people's ideas, inspirations, thoughts, that kind of thing. And then below that, you're going to have a little square, and that square is your throat center. This is the only center in human design that is about bringing any of your manifestations to life, both through communication and actually acting them out in the world. If you have this center defined, this means that you have a very consistent way of getting your message across. And if you have it undefined, you are meant to take on different voices, meant to take on different ways of communicating. You can also struggle a little bit to maybe find your voice at all times, because when you have it undefined, it means that it's not consistently the same voice that you would use around every single person. The diamond-shaped center that you have below your throat center, that is your G center, and that is all about identity, direction in life, and love. So if you have this defined, you are very strong in your identity and you know where you're going. You have an unshakable truth about yourself, and you also have a really consistent way in the way that you deliver and like to receive love. If you have it undefined, you get to sample different purposes and different identities, and you're kind of like a little bit of a social chameleon. You can take on the identity of one person and then the other person and try them on for size to see what really fits for you and gets you further along in your purpose and your direction in life. Below that, you have the sacral center, and this is all about desire, creativity, passion, sexuality. Only generators and manifesting generators have this center defined. That's literally what makes them a generator. And it is the energy and the power and the force and the life force energy to get things done. The key, though, is if you have this defined, you have to be able to find joy and fulfillment in the things that you're doing. to be able to see it to completion. If you have it undefined, it doesn't mean that you don't have energy or creativity or those, desires flowing through you. It more so means that you can sample that from someone who does have it defined, and you can have different bursts of energy. Below that is the root center. The root center is all about the adrenals and stress management and pressure. This is the pressure to get things done, and it is the will to get things done. People who have this defined have a very specific way of handling stress, and they handle it quite well. Where people who have it undefined can be a little bit all over the place or erratic about how they handle stress and how they get triggered by stress. If you look off to the right, the very top triangle that you're going to see there, that is the ego center, the will center, or the heart center. It's called different things, but it means the same thing. This is all about your will to go forward, your will to compete, your will to get things done. It is the steadfastness in which you do things. People who have this defined, it is very correct for them to be competitive. They're meant to be in the ring competing for what they want, and that just drives them further and further ahead, and it pushes their will forward. If you have this undefined, you are here to sample different types of energy and willpower in that field. You're not meant to be competitive, but you are here to sample when someone is being creatively competitive or maybe competitive within the workforce, to be able to take some of that in and push yourself in a different direction. And then if you look to the bottom, the triangle there, that is the solar plexus. And that is all about emotions and emotional awareness. 50% of the population have this defined. So that means that 50% of the population are a little bit moody. You're supposed to be riding the wave of emotions when you have this defined. You are supposed to feel the high highs and the low lows, and they can happen all throughout the day, and it's something that comes from within inside you. But you're really just here to teach the rest of the collective about what emotions are and how much beauty can actually come from them. If you have this undefined, you are here to simply witness what other people's emotions are and learn from that. You are what we would call an empath. You can take in other people's emotions and then mirror it back to them. The trick is, though, is you don't want to hold on to other people's emotional wave because it's not yours to carry. And then all the way over, that little triangle to the left, that is the spleen center. The spleen center is an ancient center, and it's been around obviously forever, but it is like a caveman center. It is the center that will be the most intuitive because it's all about survival so that you literally don't die. So a lot of fears that we have within us are actually in this center. So if you do have this center defined, you are somebody who can make in the moment gut decisions that will literally save your life or make it feel like you can save your life from that decision. If you have it undefined, you actually could be quite psychic in somebody else's health or their immunity, or even just kind of being able to decipher between if it's a fear that actually belongs to you or if it's a fear of somebody else or the collective. So as you can see, once you start to understand the differences between these centers and how you can take in some of the energy or you can maybe leave some of the energy, that is when you really start to learn the gift of each one of these centers. So the gift of the head center is all about like inspiration. You are here to see who's inspiring. You are here to be inspiring. You are here to get those divine downloads. You're here to be like a channel of inspiration for everyone around you. The head center, you get to be really open-minded. You get to have really logical, amazing, creative thoughts. Or you can also be someone who understands these people's really big, huge picture ideas and can formulate it in a way that everyone can understand. The gift of the throat center is you have such a powerful voice. You know what you mean, you know what you're saying, and you know how to bring your great ideas into reality and have them become really your manifestations that you want in this lifetime. And then the gift of the G center. That is all about knowing your purpose, knowing your direction, really knowing authentically to the core who you are, and not having anyone or any external voices outside try and shake your sense of identity or your authenticity. And then there's the gift of the sacral. This is where you're going to get all of your creativity and your passion and your zest for life. It literally is a generator, because when it is running according to plan, it is literally lighting up the room. You can walk into the room with this energy and it just feels like a big hug when you're in the gift of this. And then the gift of the root center, that is being grounded. It is knowing how to handle stress accordingly and appropriately. Is being able to understand that stress doesn't need to completely railroad you, and that a little bit of stress is actually a good thing to help you get to your end desires or end results. If we're looking over at the will center, the gift of this is of competition, but healthy competition. Being able to be out there and really put yourself into an arena that is competitive and fierce, and being able to come out the victor of this is also a gift in this center, to realize that you don't have to compete with people. You are perfect the way that you are, and you are designed exactly how you are meant to be, and not everyone in this world needs to be competitive. And then the gift of the emotional center. This is just being able to see the beauty that is emotions, but not holding on to them, having them pass through you and getting to experience them, and then thank them for visiting you, and then pass them along. If you have this defined, though, the gift of it is really being able to show the rest of us what these deep emotions look and feel like, and how to transcend them. And then the gift of the spleen is to be able to move yourself through fear. It's also the gift of being very intuitive and being able to understand and listen when those alarm bells are going off that you're in danger. Again, the spleen is also one of the fear centers. So it is being able to understand these fears that we all inherently have and figuring out how to work through them so that you're not living in lack. But some of your greatest gifts are actually going to come in the shadow of every one of these centers, because that is where you get to learn and grow the most. Anywhere where you're open is where you can have a shadow, and that is where you will take an outside conditioning that you actually think is about you, or an old story about you, but it really has nothing to do with you. Once you can start to understand the shadow of your open centers, you can start to move towards the gift of those open centers. Another really cool thing about your open centers is that's where you're a little bit psychic. Because you take that energy in so much and you can reflect it back to people, you really understand what people are thinking, feeling, what they're scared of, what excites them, because you get to be so wise in your open centers. But the shadow of the head center, that's gonna be always feeling like you have to be inspiring. You have to be on the next biggest thing. You have to know what is going to please and appease the masses, so that when you speak, you're someone to listen to. That is the shadow of the head center. The shadow of the ajna center is being really closed-minded, and also feeling like you have to answer everybody's questions that they're not even really asking you. It's the feeling of always needing to have an answer. The shadow of your throat center, that is, trying to figure out your voice. Sometimes you're lost for words. You don't speak consistently. Also, the shadow can look like just speaking for attention. Just speaking because you think you're supposed to. The shadow of the G center can be looking for love in all the wrong places. It can be you feel lost in life, like you have no purpose, you have no identity. What am I doing here? Whoever is going to love me. That would be the shadow of the G center. Below that, the sacral, the shadow of thinking that you're lazy. We're not all meant to be generators or manifesting generators and be out there in the world just hustling and being able to work like these 14-hour days successfully. Some of us, projectors, are meant to just work 4 hours a day because they can get done in 4 hours a day what can take the rest of us maybe 8 hours a day to do. And then the shadow of the root center, never feeling grounded, always stressed out, always erratic, always feeling like you're procrastinating or you're behind. And then it takes someone to come and say something to you to get you fired up to go do something. And you've completely left it to the last minute because you don't understand how to use that pressure properly to get done what you need to do. This can also look like burnout and adrenal fatigue. And then the shadow of the will center, that can be self-doubt. It can be low self-worth. It can feel like you always need to prove yourself. You're never good enough. It can be the shadow of competition because some of us were just meant to compete in this lifetime, 30% of us. So that means that the other 70% are left here feeling like we need to keep up with that or we need to compare ourselves to that when that's really not the case. Not everyone's designed to be competitive, but you still have worth in this world and value, and you don't need to prove yourself. People with this defined, is very correct for them to want to prove themselves, and is very good for their energy. It's actually a really good use of their energy. But if you have it undefined and you're in your shadow of it, you can really not know where you stand and maybe feel like you're constantly compared to somebody. So you got to do better, be more, when really you're completely fine as you are. And then the shadow of our emotional center. This can look like not having self-awareness, not having emotional awareness, really taking everyone down with your emotions. But also this can look like being too empathic and not understanding what energy or what story or what sadness is yours to carry and what you can leave behind because it was never yours to begin with. And then the shadow of the spleen. This looks like just fear, just pure fear, living in lack, always that lack mentality, and always in fear of failure, fear of the future, fear of the past, fear of death, fear of your health. So when you're living in the shadow of your spleen, the world can seem really scary until you can move through it and get to the gift of it, which you know how to transcend through fear now, and you know how to learn from it and learn from those triggers. So as you can see, getting to know all of your different centers and the little flavors that they have and where you can grow in them and where you're consistent and strong in them is a really good way to know your core beliefs and your core energy that you have. If you want to dive even deeper into all of the subtleties of your specific centers and all of the gates and the channels that you have with them, because that's going to add extra layers on top of it, I invite you to go over to our website, yourmagneticpurpose.com, and you can book a one-on-one reading with me. You can even shoot me an email if you have any questions, or you can download the PDF that is literally a full blueprint of who you are and all of your energy. I've been getting a lot of really good responses back from you all from loving that PDF. So thank you for downloading it. I'm so happy to hear that it's been really affecting you guys in a positive way. So thank you for continuing to purchase those and then booking the one-on-one readings afterwards. Once you start to understand your blueprint, and then we can get into your different centers, you can really understand how to unravel the shadow side and start to live in the gift of it. So again, I am your host, Ashley Hood. Thank you for hanging out with me for the last little bit. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Until then, stay curious. Bye.